Bonsoir. Bonsoir. Namaste. My name is Chiara, and I'm Italian. When I was 22 years old, I decided to move to India. At the time, I was just like any other person who has seen India from TV, documentaries, books. So I was under the impression that India is what we generally read about. And what do we generally read about? India is about spirituality, yoga, mystical rituals, spices, colors, dances, but also underdevelopment, crime against women, caste system, chaos. But in 2011, when I moved there, I was a young girl, very optimistic, and I thought, I am open-minded. I will, face this very happily. I was enthusiastic and optimistic. So I moved there, and when the initial period ended, I started feeling a little bit frustrated. Because when you have to go to office every morning and you have to face traffic, noise, everything that happens around you and you don't understand what's happening, you start feeling left out and you don't know what's going on. The reason is that, and I came to this conclusion with the wisdom of experience, is that one thing is self-proclaiming ourselves open-minded, and one thing is being open-minded for real. We humans, to understand the world, use categories. And why we do so? Because the world is not an easy place to understand. So our brain has to process the information and then place it in certain boxes. So one of these categories that we often associate India with is that India is an unsafe place. And I did think so as well. This is a question that I am asked very often here in Europe by friends or family. They say, but is it safe to be there? I always remember this incident. I had recently moved there, and I wasn't too much into the culture yet. It was a Saturday night, and we were partying. Because yes, people on Saturday night in India do go for parties. And it was around midnight, and one friend said, let's go for a ride. So we take the car and we start driving. We start driving and we are in Punjab. And Punjab is a state in northwest India where generally one says it's not a good thing to be out at night. But just like, the best start of an horror movie, we get lost. We get lost and the car is stuck in the mud. So we are in this place which is like empty fields. We don't know where we are. There is no network on our mobiles. And it's just the fields, the stars, and the silence. And nothing else, and we don't know where we are. And we say, okay, how do we get out of here? Probably by then it was like 2 in the night. At some point we hear a motorbike. So we thought that I should go hiding behind the car because you never know, who are these people on a motorbike at this time in the night. And the others went talking to them. So they asked for help, but those guys can't help. and they leave. After about maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, we hear a noise. You imagine, this silence of this fields, like this, and then you hear something which is growing, but you say, what is it? And initially you don't understand what's going on. And it was something like this. Initially, we didn't know what this thing was about. But when it became so loud, we realized that those guys on the motorbike had gone to the village and they had called the farmer who took out his tractor. And then he came to rescue us in that spot where we were, and he decided that it was a good thing to put this music just to, give a little bit of an ambience to the situation. And it just, I was amazed because never in my life, I think I would have seen this Punjabi farmer who takes out his tractor at 2 in the night to save 3 complete strangers, and in this kind of situation. So this made me realize that why were we feeling so scared? And more so, who would have ever done something for us? I mean, would probably I have done it for somebody else, or would we have done it for somebody else at that time in the night for people that you don't know? Talking about something else, here in Europe, we are used to hearing a lot of merci, s'il vous plaît, est-ce que vous pourriez, or in English, would you mind, please, something like that. So thank you. So when I moved to India, I was expecting something like that. And I thought, but here people don't say thank you or what? People don't say please or what? I mean, I used to think that this was very impolite. And I used to think, like, why are people so direct? When I didn't know Hindi, I used to think like that. If I say in English, give me that, it's not very polite. I should say, give me that, please. Would you mind giving me that? Once I learned Hindi, I understood that in Hindi, you don't only conjugate verbs as per gender and number. You also conjugate verbs as per the level of politeness that you want to give. So if I have to say give me in Hindi, I can say from the most informal to the most formal. I can say de do, doge, dijiye, de dijiye, de dijiyega. It all means give me. But this, I was not in a position to know it until I actually started studying Hindi. And most of the foreigners who go to India don't know Hindi, so it's impossible for somebody to really understand this mechanism. Of course, 7 years in India are difficult to condense in just a few minutes. But what this actually means is that when we travel to India, we are often shocked by what we see. We are often shocked by those things which have a visual impact, be it a negative impact or being an amazing impact. But we cannot go beyond that. We are unable to understand the rest. And why so? Because we don't have the tools to decode what's happening. And so when we see, for example, a chaotic situation, for us, that is just chaos. We don't know what's happening. But an Indian in a chaos will know exactly who is who does what, who goes where, and what is what. because they have the tools to understand what's happening, and we don't have those tools. If we spend enough time in India, we will understand certain things. One is that, for example, the guest is treated like a god, to the extent that if I tell my friend, hey, I would like to go on holiday, and my friend lives in another city, they will say, come here, stay at my place, and even if I'm not at home, I will give you the keys. The customer in India is a god. And this seems strange, to hear, but all businesses, from the very small to the very large, always do their best to give a special service to their customer, to the extent that, imagine, if I want to open a bank account, I don't have to go to the bank. I will call up the bank, and the bank will send his employee to my house with all the documents. The form will be filled by them, and I only have to sign. And I had never seen anything like that in my life before. Another thing that we often say about India is that there are no processes and they lack standardization. And again, I used to feel the very same. I used to feel very frustrated at how do I do this? Where do I go? Who is the person? And later on, I understood that this frustration came from the fact that I was not used to freedom. Since the beginning, we are always given processes that from A to Z, these are all the steps that you have to take. But in India, the thought process is different. In India, they say, we give you a direction, we tell you where you have to go, but we don't tell you each and everything that you have to do. That's up to you. And that's why when you enter in that kind of mind frame, you'll realize that this actually gives you so much more power, because your success, it's up to you. I don't have to follow processes that add no value to me. I can actually be the maker of my success. But because we are not used to it, we innerly are afraid because we don't know what to do. Somebody told me one line once, which I thought is very, very true. They said, India is the only place where you have the 19th century, the 20th century, and the 21st century living together at the same time, side by side. And that's why when you go to India, you will find everything. You will find areas which are unsafe and areas which are safe. You will find the very old and the very modern. You will find the people who are very conservative and people who are ultra-modern. You will find areas of improvement and areas of excellence. That's why when people ask me, what is India about? I say, as soon as you go beyond what you see with your eyes, you will realize that it's just like any other place with the peculiarity of any other place. So at the end of all this discussion, what all this actually adds up is the fact that when I came back from India last year, I came back as a different person. And not because I did years of yoga. Honestly, I did not even do a single class of yoga in my life. The reality is that you really learn what open-minded actually means. It means that you have to acknowledge that when you are facing a situation, be it India or be it anything else, your knowledge about that thing is really small. And to make a change, you have to take little steps every day to change yourself from inside. Only in that way, we can actually evolve and change as people. And so, one thing that I've really realized after living there and having all sorts of experiences is that That sentence that Socrates said many years ago, it's very true. And that sentence is, I know that I know nothing at all. Thank you.